What is going on, guys? We are talking about the Sunshine Springs update that is coming to the Saints Row on May 9th. Now, they're adding Sunshine Springs. As you can see, this sign is pointing that way. So it's over there somewhere. That's how you get there. But there's a lot more coming to the update than just adding Sunshine Springs and the expansion missions. This is going to be a huge update, okay? I'm going to read some of these updates. Now, I will tell you some of the stuff I'm not sure I'm going to like, but we're going to talk about some of this stuff here. Okay, now I'm going to start by talking about the combat changes. Okay, it says drastically reduces the hit point value of all enemies. Okay, reduces the frequency of enemy dodges in melee combat to near zero. I don't really like that because it's going to make the enemies easier to beat. I like the enemies tough on here. Saints Row, historically, when you look at the earlier Saints Row games, beating up the enemies has been very easy. This one has been a little bit harder, and I actually appreciate the difficulty that the game has. So they're going to, and it also reduces the frequency of enemies avoiding player kicks to zero, which means the enemies no longer avoid your kicks. Okay, so they're going to be not as defensive in combat. I don't necessarily care for that fix. I prefer a tough, hardcore fighting enemy. That's what I prefer in this game. I guess maybe if you increase the difficulty factor, that will make them harder to beat, but increase the amount of time it takes for enemies to call for reinforcement. Again, I don't like that because it's not that hard to avoid, to escape the enemies. It's not super hard. It gives you enough to fight for, you know what I mean? It's a good battle for the sake, but I don't like the fact that they're focusing on making it easier. Okay, enemies arrive to combat situations will now arrive in slightly different locations to more frequently avoid collisions. So I guess the collisions from driving around with guys coming to help, that's going to be reduced. I'm cool with that, of course. Enemy hit chance is now temporarily reduced when the player crouches. Okay, I can accept that because you're ducking, right? Change the crossbow weapon. Changed the crossbow weapon to use hit scan logic instead of behaving like a projectile weapon. Okay, whatever. Not sure if I care about that. Slightly improved the sounds indicating low ammo. Not a big deal there. Improved impact reaction associated with weapons typically viewed as heavy. Okay, it says improved impact reactions, which means, I guess that means when an enemy gets hit with them, the reaction might be a little bit more dramatic, or it might more match the actual impact of the weapon more so. I know Saints Row 3rd had a dramatic impact when you got hit with heavy weapons. Added a visual element to the rectile of the HUD to indicate when a player successfully hits an enemy. Okay, not sure if that really makes a big deal. Remove stand in place and panic order from Panteros enemies who are on fire. This better aligns with them the logic of using fire in their attacks. Okay, so Panteros uses a lot of fire in their attacks. Like, some of the bosses will actually throw fire at you, and when they catch on fire, they won't panic as much, so it won't make them look as idiotic, basically. Like, if I'm throwing fire at my enemy and then I catch fire and I start panicking, then I do it again, it kind of looks idiotic, so I can understand why they would fix that. Buff low-level explosive skills to more useful and fun throughout the game. Okay. Remove damage immunity on enemy combatants when dodging. Okay. Added fire damage resistance to all Panteros. I do like that because now they have fire resistance and they use a lot of fire, so it's going to give them an advantage. I do like situations where an enemy is tough. I do like that about this game. Added better logic to enemies attempting to make a call in for reinforcement to better keep them in the view of players and thus able to be interrupted. This should keep enemies from calling too often from cover. I don't like that change. I'd rather them be able to just call whoever they want whenever they want. Actually, added logic to better clean up vehicles abandoned by fleeing pedestrians. Okay. Okay, so that's some of the combat damage. You have some there's a whole lot of stuff being added to this game. Okay? So I'm going to get into some details about some of the other fixes, general fixes, because there's a lot of them that by the way, you have a new emote wheel that you can spin through and change your emotes, which is cool. There's something called a selfie mode. New selfie mode can be found within the camera app. Players can move the camera in a small 3D space, change the orientation, change the modify focal distances, toggle different facial expressions, and even pause mid-emote. They can even hide all the HUD elements to capture an image using the share feature of the respective platforms. I guess that's kind of cool. Not sure if I care about it really, but I'm sure I'll mess with it a little bit. And you have some mission and the mission app enhancements, which is basically, how you got the app that shows your missions on here on your phone, right here. They're gonna enhance some of this here. I'm not gonna read all that stuff there. There's a lot there because I'm not gonna read everything. I'm gonna look into some general fixes though. Added hide player health UI option. Added vehicle health UI option. Added hide vehicle health UI option. I do like that. I don't like seeing the vehicle's health on the screen. Reorganized and unified the pause and main menu to help players better find the options they're looking for. Okay. I'm not sure I've ever struggled with that, but okay. Added ability to custom nickname vehicles in the garage. Now this is a bit, so you can change, you're gonna be able to change the names of your vehicles in your garage. I'm gonna show you why this is very significant. Because, okay, so I'm gonna be able to go to my garage, take a vehicle. Now, we know these vehicles are actually real vehicles. Well, they're generic versions of real vehicles. They just don't have the license to use the names. So you will be able to actually change the names of these vehicles to the real vehicle if that's what you want to do. And that right there is very significant. Me personally, I'm not great at recognizing vehicles. I'm okay, but I'm not great. So I'm not going to be able to do well with this, but I'm going to look up some of this stuff and try to change the names of some of these vehicles because you'll be able to do that. Like if this is a Mitsubishi, you'll be able to call it a Mitsubishi. Maybe it's a Honda or something. Not sure what it is, but we'll be able to figure out what this stuff is. And we will be able to do that now. That is one of the fixes that's being added to this game. That is very significant. I really, really, really like that fix. I think that's really cool. First, I thought it was no big deal, and then I actually thought about it. Okay, let's talk about some of the other changes to this game. Okay. They fixed a few outstanding weather-related bugs. Okay. I'm not sure which bugs those are necessarily. Okay, Saints will now gather in small groups in completed districts ready to help out the player. Okay, so there's going to be groups of people hanging out, apparently. Groups of Saints, I guess, in case you get in a fight or a battle in certain areas. Okay, added new distant vehicle camera via up the D-pad while driving, Z on the keyboard. Okay, so if you hit up on driving, it'll apparently change the camera angle. I guess that's the distance of the camera, like right now. If I hit up on a D-pad, it'll change the camera view. That's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. Not really a big deal, but I think it is a positive change. Okay, so and then there's going to be some weather changes. They added a new weather outcast and cloudy states to weather system. Not really a big deal. I wish they would add rain, you know, have rainy days in this, but they just have night and day, and then they have the sandstorms.
Good thing we cut those
But
Panteras.
yeah, those are some of the changes. Those are the significant changes that I look forward to. You know, like I said, I did mention the ones that I'm not pleased with. The combat system, I do not want the combats easier in this. I want the enemies to come hard, especially the Panteros. I want them to be very tough, very hard hitting. But apparently maybe they've been getting complaints about how tough or overwhelming it is, but I don't know. That's kind of how I like these type of open world games. I don't like the easy enemy stuff that you got in the other Saints Row games, Saints Row 2, Saints Row 3rd. Nobody had a chance with your Saint in a combat. I mean, your Saint was just absolutely dominant. And it kind of took away from the, you know,
Are they okay?
gangster mentality of the game. I like my enemies to be hardcore. Anyway, that's this video. Leave a comment. What features do you look forward to seeing the most? Are you even concerned about this? Again, the Sunshine Springs
Ain't nobody gonna block my
is coming to the game regardless if you have the DLC.